This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you today.
It is a lovely day in the neighborhood.
All the neighborhood. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is no time or space, so regardless of where you are in our neighborhood.
Exactly.
Today on Conscious Conversations, we're talking about consciousness and releasing the need for protection. This world seems chaotic and contentious nowadays, and a lot of sensitive people feel like they have to shield themselves from negative energies. Well, this is an old paradigm. So stay tuned and learn how to be different with this from a greater perspective as consciousness.
And here's an invitation for you to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. You can try out our website at www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you're going to find out all about all our podcasts, our blogs, meetup sessions. Joan's going to give you all the details. Go for it, Janet.
Okay. Yes. That's how you just called me, Jan.
There we go.
We're
I'm
merging
really
in consciousness. Right? Let me see. My hair is red. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So on the website, you can listen to our podcast. All our old shows are there. And you can also read our blogs. We write very interesting newsletters that we put up there. And you can find out about our meetups. Janet's are on Tuesday and on Thursdays in Portland in her lovely home. And then mine are around the Puget Sound, from Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place, and sometimes Vashon Island. And the one that is coming up this weekend is Tacoma, Saturday, June the 17th. Yes, that is right. From 3:45 to 5:45 at the Wheelock Library in Proctor. So that's on the north end. That is one of my most popular meetups. So we have a really good time there. The next time we're up is in Bellevue is on Sunday the 25th, June the 25th from 2 to 4 at the main library in Bellevue, and it's conference room 4 when you first walk into the lobby there. And that's a good one too. And then our evening one is always at University Place, which is in south of Tacoma, next to Whole Foods at the University Place Library. And that is on Wednesday, June the 28th at 6:30 to 8:45. And looks like I didn't put down the next thing we have is July 2nd. But hey, you'll just have to wait in suspense to find out about that one.
Yeah. Okay. And you'll also find information about sessions. Both Joan and I do sessions over Skype and personal. She does her coaching and I do I don't know what the hell I do, but I do something with clients. And then give them all the addresses for our Facebook and Twitter and about subscribing on YouTube now.
Yes, technically you should be able to get that from our website, but I can't remember right now. I'm feeling distinctly non-local. So you can find us on Facebook, Joan Newcomb or Janet Barrett, and the show is Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet on Facebook, so you can join the groups and join the fun. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can follow Janet.
Janet, what is it, Janet? Janet Beyond, I think.
Janet, yes, at Janet Beyond. Yeah. And then I am Joan Newcomb. So pretty simple. Follow us there. And if you like us on YouTube, we're on YouTube as well. My YouTube channel, I actually post my YouTubes on our website, so you can just find them there.
Great Mystic Minutes. I love them.
Thank you. Little 5-minute trainings or pluses on how to navigate your life as consciousness. I want to let you know of a fun thing that's going to be coming up. It's actually starting next week. It is a Transformation to Joy Global Telesummit. And I'm participating in it on Tuesday, July the 11th, but there's all sorts of other great things. So stay tuned for a post on that on our website, ConsciousConversationsWithJoanandJanet.com. I will put all the links to the Global Telesummit. There's some really great people who are participating there. And you want to tell what's happening tomorrow?
Let me see. On Thursday evening, that is tomorrow, isn't it? Oh my gosh, how time flies. Yes. June 15th at 7 p.m. Pacific is our free conference call. And we want to invite all of you to join us. It's a great time for an intimate group experience. We take about an hour. We explore what being in heart-centered awareness means and how it applies to daily living. So for those of you who'd like a little, the chance to ask us questions directly, and we focus on those people who call in and what's going on with them, and then in the bigger pictures that do apply. It's a wonderful time. It's always fun. It's always profound, and it makes a difference in lives. So please, you can contact us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com to get signed up for that, and give us a shot. See what you think. We'd love to hear from you about it. And then you got your 12-week transformation program, right?
Right. That is my private coaching program. I work one-on-one. It's a pretty intense experience, and for that reason, I only take a few clients per year because I work with them pretty closely for 12 weeks to completely transform their lives. There are options to go longer with me, but we start off with those 12 weeks because that's enough to knock your socks off on transforming every major area of your life, learning how to navigate as consciousness in this higher awareness that we are all experiencing, whether we're aware of it or not, and just a very new way to be in the world. It's very exciting.
Well, it's especially to be appreciated in this time, and especially in regards to what our subject is today, Joan. And, when we were talking about this and the idea of protection and what that's all about for people and why that is and why it's really not useful anymore. And especially when you feel sensitive enough to respond and make judgments about energy being positive or negative, we want to just free that up because we realize that it's really limiting mindset. And then if you can change that, if you can reframe that, different things will happen. Yeah. And we want to play with that definitely today.
That's so interesting. Yes. And there's the whole idea of protections, and even just the word protection tends to conjure up the idea of shielding yourself or resistance. You can just feel yourself tense. And the thing I have found with resistance is that you attract what you're resisting. You become a magnet for the thing you don't want. So for me, the most powerful form of protection is non-resistance. And you reminded me about the ethics that get created about energy. And years ago, I worked for a place, and the focus was on creating your reality, and it was also on becoming aware of your own space. And yet there was an awful lot of finger pointing about people getting into your space and stuff. And it took me some years to realize that I would feel like somebody was in my space when really I was being highly empathic or telepathic, and I was, they weren't invading my space. I was just feeling how badly they felt about things. Yeah. And that's more about me. So, owning my space. So one of the things I find now playing in this game of consciousness, you and I play in, is it's the highest form of non-resistance I find. Your energy is so expanded. It's kind of like your molecules are so open that you don't even feel the negative energy passing through. It's not even negative. It's just denser, and it doesn't stick. So
Well, so the new word, right, instead of the game of protection and defense, is integrity for me. I want to talk about, if I reframe it to a matter of integrity, then whatever I am seemingly coming up against or resisting is really permeable. I'm permeable to it, and that means that it can go through me and I still hold together, and it just goes. And I came to this appreciation a lot when I started with Grandmaster Yuan, the Yuan method, and he's Grandmaster of 5 different disciplines of martial arts and a Shaolin monk by training and all that. And it was understanding how energy and our response to it and what we want to do with it and how to navigate with it. And you can set it up that it's something to be, you can play with it differently. If you take it out of the positive and negative reframe it, it's just energy. How do you want to engage it? That frees me up to engage. Yeah.
So I want to ask you some more about integrity, but we need to take, so just hold on to that because we need to take a quick break. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about consciousness and releasing the need for protection in a state of grace.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I am your host, Joan. I'm along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and releasing the need for protection.
Yeah. This is something I think really comes out of not only our sense of being physical, right? And we have to survive and protect and all that stuff, but also out of so much human interaction and conversation and metaphysical trainings and stuff. The need to protect yourself, to insulate yourself. And that's, and when we look at it in terms of this kind of work, energy work and being intuitive or psychic or whatever work you are, and when you work with other people, how we hold ourselves together. And if you're going to use a framework that you need to be protected, you already got one foot in the hole. And I've come to understand that finally in learning about myself as consciousness, that I don't want to be in that space and place when I interact with others. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I had wanted to ask you, for a definition of integrity. It conjures up a lot of different images for me. I think about being in integrity with my own values, being aligned with my own energy. So how did you mean it?
Well, I think that's the same way I'm meaning it.
Okay.
If you're in integrity, for me, that statement means that you aren't in alignment and in your congruency of what is, well, the term.
Wait. Yeah. You mean that when you're in integrity, you aren't in alignment?
No, you are in alignment.
Okay.
With that your inner self.
You are congruent?
Yes. Okay. You're congruent. So in your congruency, you're permeable. Mm. You're not in a state of block, right? So it means the integrity holds while whatever the nature is you're experiencing. So I can let it just pass through my particles of my being, and it just keeps going, and I still hold my matrix of awareness of who I am. And in doing it, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of male thinking, I'm sorry, we're just going to have to start there, is about resisting. It's about force. That's what testosterone is. It makes something hard and tangible, and you need that. There's nothing wrong with that. The challenge is when you say, I'm in a protective mode, and this is where the warrior and all that kind of energy comes in, or the mother who's protecting her children, right? There's nothing wrong with protection. That's not what I'm questioning here. What I'm looking at is as a mindset, that there are things out there that can hurt me. And as I've embraced myself as consciousness, it's okay if I get hurt. I will be who I am. And it's okay if I die. And it's okay. Everything becomes okay. That I'm moving out of that fear place, which is normal, when you feel something and you feel it, if you judge it as an attack of some sort, to respond. And it's about how to get past that, how to just allow yourself to notice things and engage the forces around us in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally understand. And I grew up with all brothers. I have only sons, and so there is. But it's not just male. But you're actually talking more about defensiveness.
Yeah.
And so the use of protections tend to be to defend and to shield. Yeah. And my early training had a form of protection that was simply to define. Mm-hmm. It was a protection rose, which was a rose. It was a symbol that was out on the edge of your aura, is what it was. Mm-hmm. And it defined your space. And I used to liken it to like a float, like those styrofoam floats, between the deep end and the shallow end. So it was more of a gentle reminder that this is my space, and that's not my space. And as opposed to a shield, as opposed to, some angry guru, guy, protecting police.
But even in that, see, they use the word protection.
Right. So it was not a good
labeling. Yeah. I don't think
it was not. Yeah. That was kind of like, well, also with the idea of the more advanced level of protection was called body of glass. Mm-hmm. And it was really non-resistance. Mm-hmm. I always felt that glass was not a good description because glass breaks. And the sensation I have with that would be more like a wind through a screen door, that you're so non-resistant, your molecules are separated and density just passes right through.
Right. And since we have to remember that our life experience and our labels and our language come out of our humanity a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So what's real in the physical is also in our metaphysical world often. And that's in a lot of metaphysical training that I'm familiar with or have been part of or whatever it is, there's this, I have to protect myself when I deal with other people. And what you're saying is, I think the language was wrong. We didn't have a word like integrity, or they didn't think to use that word because they were in a mindset that we'll call it shield, we'll call it whatever, and it's just a little softer version of it. That is so present with a lot of work that I see out there right now, that very good people, and I'm not qualifying their skill sets in any way. I see really good people that are still using that kind of language. And I'm like, need to reframe that, because that's putting you in a certain perceptual bias about how you're interacting in the world. And a lot of us are out there in the world doing our work and helping others, and then we have to look to ourselves always. So that's still a wounding, I think, that's present, whether it's intentional or not, but I think we need to.
Well, and then my perspective with that now is that, this is a creation of consciousness. Mm-hmm. This world is a simulation or a hologram, and there are all different levels of playing the game. And when I'm in integrity with my own awareness, with myself as consciousness, then people can be playing at all sorts of different levels, and it's all good. And it doesn't affect me, and it doesn't make me not compassionate, but I'm not feeling the pain of all that either.
Right. Well, you know what? Why don't we get into heart?
Yeah, because then the subject's going to totally change.
Totally change. Now, and when I say that, Joan and I tend to hang out in that state a lot anyway. It's just, and we started before we started this show, doing our work already. So we're just inviting you, the listener, in whatever time and space, whether you're listening to us live or whether you're listening to us by podcast, that you too recognize, oh, okay, they're already in that place and I'm there with you. So we're just going to make it easy on you here and just bring all of our attentions to what we already are in. And it's what you're already in, but you perhaps might be unaware of it. So we call it accessing heart-centered awareness. And you just want to, wherever you are, time and space, whatever you're doing, that part of you that can notice with us, just bring your awareness in a little bit and start with your heart. Always a good place to start. Just be appreciative and grateful. There is nothing more powerful, I think, than if you start your life in a state of appreciation and gratitude. So we'll always put that first. And once you start doing this, no matter how many times you've listened to us or if this is your first time, it is all about being in alignment with whether you notice it or not, and where you notice your challenges are. So just bring your awareness to be grateful for being alive. And then that second awareness that comes with the emotional terrain, the second meaning of heart. And notice you have emotions and be neutral to them. And you have many, and you have several running at the same time, and you have more than you could possibly name. And all that doesn't really matter. That's just the flavors of consciousness. So just notice and allow that to soften. Allow that emotion to just go through. Be permeable, right? Here we are. We're talking. There's no reason to protect yourself from your own emotions. Though a lot of us have it set up that way. So that's why this is important. And then in that third meaning of heart, core, essence of all, this is where we step into the reality that we are all one. That we are photons of light, photons of bio, a little mass to them, and there's frequencies, vibrations, resonances, and information. And information, all this makes up patterns. And those are the things that you are, those patterns. You've embodied those patterns. So, just noticing that there's really no difference between you, me, Joan, the table, and your dog out there. It's just how you're configured. That's all. So on the level that we're having this conversation in, we are addressing that we are just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and that in this infinite sea of potential, where everything gets a little soft, there's just warmth, support, non-judgment. And sometimes we need to be reminded about that. So we look to do that every week. And just breathe. And what if whatever you thought you were and today and yesterday was about just maybe isn't? And what if there's just you and the air and what you hear and the neighbor and the school principal, whatever it is. Just notice what a lovely, sacred silence, stillness present. Oh, that's lovely, Joan. What you noticing, sweetie?
It is lovely, and I started worrying about my neighbor, but just hope they don't let their dog out while we're recording. Yeah, the whole energy softened.
Yeah. And that's what you were talking about, you know. What we're talking about is that when you're in this place of reference, is there a need to protect? I don't see that because I'm coming from a different perspective. It isn't me against anything else. It's me in relation to something else.
Yes. Yeah, it's in relationship, and it's all just energy.
Yeah. What do you notice about how people will say negative or positive energies? Because that's big out there. A lot of people react to that.
Yeah, well, we are viewing the world through our physical bodies. We're viewing it as a physical world as opposed to an energetic world. Mm-hmm. And we are interpreting and defining it the way our bodies experience it. So our bodies experiencing things in terms of the density that they exist in, and they interpret things in terms of life and death because your body's not going to make it out of this lifetime alive. So, you know, when you said, I may die, body goes, no! And consciousness goes, that makes no sense. We don't die. And
yeah, right.
Even energetically, everything just transforms into something else.
Yeah.
But, you know, form is very attached to form. So, you know, viewing something as positive or negative, and, you know, it can get caught in that because, you know, density is bad and non-density feels better.
And those are all judgments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, even labeling something as negative or resisting the evil in the world. I've come to understand that evil is simply, it's collective negative thinking is how I'd say it. So to me, it comes across as kind of a black, oily cesspool, and it's also part of the game on this planet. It's all of this is a creation of consciousness. So, you know, you jump in the pool and some parts are deeper than others, and some of it's cold and some of it's warm, but it's all just swim time here, folks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Can one be too sensitive, do you think?
Even that's a judgment.
Exactly. Because a lot of people say that I'm too sensitive.
Well, so I believe that sensitivity is a byproduct of consciousness, that the more consciously embodied you are, the more your sensitivity increases. Mm-hmm. And if you're viewing it as being a victim of your sensitivity, then it's going to feel negative, as opposed to, wow, I'm feeling really telepathic here.
Yeah, right.
It's just all part of the game,
Well, I think as our jobs as consciousness educators, and helping our listeners and their questions that sometimes they ask, and most of the questions they ask silently, and their concerns, is that it's all about, for me, the word is reframing, reorganizing, and taking the judgments out of our language that are inappropriately or appropriately at the time were put in place, and now just become part of a morphic field of, unclarity kind of thing. So in this age of consciousness expansion and whatever our sense of that is, and it's just really bringing our awareness that consciousness is expansive and it's always been there. So my awareness is what's expanding, actually. How this is the chance to redefine ourselves, to visit again things we have never thought to question or to look at or to participate. And it's like learning, not so much as a baby kind of thing, because I don't think there's necessarily a lot of, that's just about taking in information pretty much. At some point that starts to, okay, the imprinting kind of, backs off. There's a little bit enough of integrity in that individual to start to say, oh, that feels good or that doesn't, kind of thing. And that's the way I am and that's the way I'm not am, and we start to make distinctions. I don't know, where was I going with all that? I don't know, I went somewhere.
No. You're floating down the river.
Sure. Well, there you go. You could just be one. How about that? Oh,
yeah.
Talking
well, the thing I find
reframing this for people,
Yeah, when we drop into heart space, really, if you hadn't asked that particular pointed question, there would be like, this topic doesn't make sense. There's no need to talk about this topic because it all feels good,
Yeah.
And I think about viewing this world as consciousness and realizing that we are all consciousness creating this, and it's all just a marvelous story, game, adventure, and density and effort. And so there isn't any bad about it.
Well, okay, so what I hear is a clamor of, but in the real world, there are real problems and there are suffering and dying and all this stuff.
Yes, right.
And you can feel all that emotional going on. So we're acknowledging that and just go back to just being in heart-centered awareness about it. Okay, now allow your awareness to float up about whatever your concern is. And it gets tricky when I said real world, real problems, because that's a reality. And so what we're offering you is to back off of that and let it get fuzzy. And if there was no need to protect yourself, what happens to all of that?
It just dissipates.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And what if everyone was playing by the same rules or guidelines? And theirs kind of gets sticky because everyone is playing by different rules and guidelines. And so still go back to self or a sense of whatever you are. And we want to realize that we are the center. So as you realize that you are open to experience and you can hold your integrity, and that's what starts to go out into the world as a ripple because of the way dynamics work, notice what happens. So just take that information and let it get a little bigger than your body. And then take it to the room you're in. And just allow yourself, what if this was real? What if this is your reality? Now, Some of us have got it set up that we have to test what we think is our truth. And so you wind up and you'll go slam your foot and someone will, your car, whatever. We can do all kinds of dances in our story. But just notice what it would feel like to be present, and that instead of being defensive, information comes and goes. Doesn't have to hurt. Doesn't have to make you feel good. Doesn't have to do anything. It just comes and goes. What you got there, Joan?
I'm just watching it come and watching it go.
Yeah. Oh, kind of frees you up, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm having this kind of fun and kind of mystical and sometimes challenging growth expansion where when I do my upgraded techniques, I'm much more present here in the world, and it is less painful. Mm-hmm. So my old techniques would bring me more into the density of the body. I would be grounded and I'd feel gravity increase. And for me that was comfort, but it also was kind of miring into the muck. And so it's kind of a weird, strange shift in, just wirelessly connecting into form. And suddenly the whole experience kind of upgrades to IMAX or something. I'm trying to think of what the analogy is. It upgrades to where I'm really physically present, but the body isn't in the density of the past.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because there's no resistance.
Yeah.
So it's the permeability. That's the permeability. It's like you can find yourself in the primordial ooze, and I always call it primordial ooze. But then you walk lightly in it, right? We're full of primordial ooze, and we walk lightly.
Yes.
And, we may leave a trail like Pigpen behind us, but that's kind of the way it is. It's like, you're still walking.
You're sounding like an ad for Imodium, but go ahead.
Probably very helpful in some realities. So, yeah. So what if life was something different? Now, so if each of us can hold that reality, see how long you can hold that reality for. What if people started to have compassion? And they do. The challenge in the muck and mire that has been stirred up is for us to realize what we are truthfully in ourselves, of our authentic voice, and not truth that we come to reason with. It's what's really present, and it's like, we are compassionate. We do feel each other. There's no way. We're all one. You have got to feel the other. You may have tuned your awareness down so you don't notice it, but that's just you and your illusion of control. Right? So, what is it?
Yes.
Just admit that that we are all one. Maybe this is what that is. That's the conversation.
You hit the nail on the head with the illusion of control, and that, protecting is trying to control your reality, trying to control your environment, trying to keep the bad stuff out or whatever. It's all, I find that, the less conscious I am, the more I need to control.
And can you feel that in your head, Joan? The back of my head is just, as soon as you started articulating that, I'm like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and what I find when I am just being in consciousness, being as consciousness, it's all my creation, so there's really no need to control anything.
Mm-hmm. Because you allow for your experiences.
Something like that.
You already have integrity. You know, there's no question. And it's interesting about control because once we know what control is, we want more of it. It's an interesting thing, really. And I think sometimes we fail to recognize how powerful it is. Once it's, okay, I've said this is what it is, and it just closes off to anything else. And then the world just keeps getting smaller. And I think we finally have had this wake-up call in consciousness and humanity that, whoa, people, we have to think a little bigger here. And, well, that's something that comes to mind. Have you seen that wonderful Apple commercial that's about the Carl Sagan? Carl Sagan talking, I think I posted it on Facebook the other day. It's just marvelous. It's about his awareness. And for those of you who don't know who Carl Sagan is, how sad, but I'm glad to know I was of a generation when I was able to witness him. It has a marvelous way. He was a astrophysicist. I don't know what his title was, but he did a great show called Cosmos years ago on television. Great series. And it explained all about how the universe works to that point and where we kind of played into it. And the recent Apple commercial is just, it takes a clip and shows how, you know, we're all in this together. And just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it isn't there. And about the earth and how we're all on it. And this is the only option going right now. And, for some reason that seemed important to mention, that we are all just one. And so you can hide your head in the sand and say alternate facts all you want. It doesn't mean any difference. You will wake up at some point.
Maybe, or they may stay in that parallel universe where they...
Well, it may not be in this embodiment. It may be in
their own version of the man in High Castle or whatever.
Yeah, really. Wow. So I like that. Wow. What if that's just out there on the airwaves, Joan?
It is.
It is. Exactly. See, that's our reality. People, you know, we have the most marvelous times in group, here. And I know you do in yours. In particular, we hold the focus that whatever we're looking at is we each serve as a portal to whole bunches of other information and people and things. And this wonderfully desirable, delightful state, and it is delightful, and I had a men's group here last week, and there were grown men, using the word delightful, which is not something they normally would use. And I was very taken with their reference that life is delightful. And I thought, that's interesting. I like that. So we don't spend a lot of focus on protection because we're feeling pretty I don't know. It's not so much self-contained, but there's a sense that we're expansive. And I think that's the difference. You know, we hold both, you know, we straddle both that awareness, being physical and consciousness, and it's always such a privilege and delight to be in that expansive state. And look how quiet it is, Joan.
Yes, it is. Everybody is just humming, you know, it's just very, in their own. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you all. That is just so glad you're there with us about that.
Yes. Yes.
Create.
Well, listen, I think this is a good time to let people stay humming. Okay. Keep humming along, and we are going to take a quick break. So just a reminder that you're listening,
yeah,
you're living with us too. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You're your host, Joan and Janet. I don't know which one I am at this moment, but we're going to take a short break and figure that out, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are humming along and talking about consciousness and the releasing the need for protection.
Well, and what we were coming on the break, everyone, was how quiet it is.
Right.
And
I think we released the need.
Yes, we really, and I think there's a lot of joy available. I'm just sitting here just happy as a clamor. And I'm just like, whoa, I find a smile on my face. So check in, see if you're smiling. See if you're surprising yourself. I also have some neck ache. So I think people are sad.
Something's a pain in the neck there.
Something, yeah. So let's just see if we can soften that. Okay, Joan, what are you noticing?
Yeah, I'm noticing some tension in my neck.
Yeah, I think people have been holding their head up, Well,
so, just remember that tension is a very negative thing. It's bad. Stop being in our space.
No, actually, let's reframe that.
Invaded by our listeners.
Yeah, tension is inherent in anything living, okay? It shows you're alive. No, you have more tension, you're into stress, and when you have less, you have relaxation and rest. So, there's nothing wrong with tension. It's just, you can feel this constriction. So, just open, people. Just unfold. Just notice how tight, how stressed, let's see if we can change our language here, how stressed perhaps you have been feeling in a way you didn't recognize. And it was in some sense in regards to the idea that you needed to separate yourself. So I'm not even going to use that trick word. I'm just going to call just how you've been holding yourself. And if we could all breathe, and this country could breathe, this planet could breathe again, and we could breathe in unison with the planet, what that would be like. And I don't see any trees out there that are in a state of stress unless they're dealing with their environment. But I'm here in Portland, Oregon. It's
in
spring, and it's just gorgeous. So there's no... Yeah.
Trees are happy there. There's happy trees, and they're not little, so they're happy big trees.
Yeah. Oh, and my 100-year-old cherry tree out in my backyard here is just happy. So just, there you go. You can just see fields of grain weaving around, blowing in the wind. Yeah, I think everybody needs to take a breath. Has been holding their breath feels like. So, so Joan, because I know we have just a minute here or so. So for all of those out there who are feeling a sense that they don't like what they see in their environment, what do we want to offer them? How do we want to?
How to non-resist it?
How to non-resistance maybe. Also, how to let them be whatever it is. Be.
Okay. Well, I would non-resist it. Is what I would do.
So non-resistance would be what?
Would be, so here's the thing that you're resisting that's out there. And it's not a matter of focusing on it and trying to not resist it, but having the focus on yourself in a relaxed and open state. So you don't need to change or fix the thing out there. You just need to withdraw your focus or bring it in, bring your attention into yourself. And you can imagine being transparent is another way to do it. Have on a Harry Potter invisibility cloak. That actually kind of helps you open up. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I would do is go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and listen to all our old podcasts. So just take your attention off the news and listen to our podcasts and read our blogs and come to our meetups. Join us on our Conscious Conference call tomorrow at 7:00. Get a session from Janet and me. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and subscribe to us on YouTube. Anything else?
Well, we're so much more than we think we are. And for me, non-resistance would be shift the focus back to me. And how is their tap dance? How do I relate to their tap dance? And am I keeping it that way? Or if I'm going to allow myself to go, what if this could be different? What would be possible? And how is it possible to extend myself in a way that can make a difference? And I just allow that to come into play. It's always how we hold something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in the last couple minutes, I already just put out what our website is as a way to connect with us after the show. And a reminder that we have a conscious conference call tomorrow at 7:00. Mm-hmm. You can go to our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and click on the link there to join us. This Saturday, June the 17th, 3:45, I'm going to be in Tacoma at the Wheelock Library. So if you're nearby, come join us. I'm going to be in Bellevue the following week on Sunday, June the 25th. You can join us up there. And then I'm going to be down in University Place the Wednesday after that, June the 28th. I'm in Seattle in July. You'll have to look that up later. And also, I'm going to be on a Transformation to Joy Global Teleconference. And that is starting next week. There'll be a post on our website directing us there, and I will be interviewed on July the 11th, so you can sign up to listen to it live or get the recordings.
And there's so many wonderful things available to people these days, right? Over the internet and stuff.
Yes, but my stuff is better.
Yeah, you're damn right.
Don't affect.
And what I want to offer people, our listeners, is to allow yourself to hear what someone is saying and notice the bias. We all have bias. And notice if it's whatever is coming out of a sense to protect, because that's going to tell you that in that design and framework, that is permeating in it. And you get to choose whether you're going to engage it or not. And so at some point, we all can do the part of, oh, okay, I can see that bias. I'm not into that, but let me pull the information out that I need. And then you're helpful, right? You're more helpful. You're using your own skills, you're developing your own awareness, and you're also giving that information back to the designer and creator about that. So Life
And
is
if you
good.
want to know about being the designer and creator of your own life,
Yeah.
I have a new opening in my 12 Weeks to Transformation coaching program. It's a private coaching and consciousness training that you can navigate as consciousness in the ways we've been talking about. So go to my website, Joan-Newcomb, for that. And we are sliding into home here. I want to let everyone know how much we appreciate them, because no matter what time or space you're listening to this, whether it's live or on the podcast, you are contributing to the morphic field today. You are co-creating this moment with us.
And this is real for all of us, right? For Joan and I certainly, but for you, the listener, and what you're noticing, and just allow whatever that is to just become more. And there's no need to beat yourself up about what position you are or what position we're in. It's all information, and we're all one, and we're in this world together, people. So let's see if we can enjoy ourselves at the same time. And thank you so very much. This has been delightful.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan.
And I'm Janet. Thanks, guys.
Tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.